Hi there, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Sheena Wyatt from Kapow Business Coaching, and I'm your host for today's session this afternoon, where we'll be hearing from Travis Campbell from LMS 365 and Steve Wood of DAZN, who will be talking to us this afternoon about development in 2021, learning through enablement and trust. That'll be followed by a great Q&A, and as we go through the session, do drop your questions into the chat window in the questions tab, and we'll address those at the end. So without further ado, Travis, Steve, it's over to you.
Thanks, Sheena. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Travis, how are you? Thank you, Sheena.
Good. Good to see you as always, Steve. Well, I'm glad we could get together here for another fireside chat. First off, right, DAZN, DAZN.
You got it. You got it.
The proper pronunciation.
You want to know who we are, don't you?
Yeah. Can you give us some background on DAZN? What is it? What's it all about?
Sure. Thanks, Travis. Yeah, DAZN is actually the leading global sports streaming platform, and it was literally only back in 2015. It was just an idea. But it's a platform, an online platform that's known as OTT, so it's purely streaming. And we're a company that's leading the charge to give affordable access to sport anytime, anywhere to sports fans. Available on most internet devices, so smart TVs, phones, here's the pitch, PCs, consoles, all of these things. But from 2015, we first launched in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Japan in 2016. Very quickly moved to Canada 2017, Italy and the US, Spain and Brazil. So very, very rapid kind of expansion in terms of capturing rights and being able to stream those to fans around the world. And then probably our biggest venture last year, we expanded to more than 200 countries and territories. It really reinforced our commitment to become a global sports destination platform. The first phase of that global expansion is an English language service focused mainly on boxing at the moment. We've had some significant investment in there over the last couple of years. And at present now, from 2015, we actually have now just over 2,000 people based in offices around the world. And I form part of the employee experience team. And within the employee experience team, we pride ourselves on staying as close to, as connected to as possible to every single country that we operate in, wherever we have people, so we can provide support. Every market's slightly different, every market's needs are slightly different. So that's our job as an employee experience team. My role as looking after people development is staying close to people and understanding what they need. So that's DAZN for you.
Wow, that sounds like an exciting place to be. There's got to be things happening all the time, I guess.
Yeah, it's, I think most companies would say you need agility, you need to be able to adapt, you need to work at pace, you need to be able to change. Oh boy, do we mean it. Absolutely, do we mean it. It's real stuff here, real stuff.
And we've all been in this phase of constant change and the whole pandemic. How did that affect you guys when people went home? I guess they're distributed in the first place, but it must have been doubly challenging.
Yeah, it sounds like it is actually an understatement to say we just had to move really quickly.
Yeah.
We had, as you say, we had people around the world who were very rightly just became very uncertain about everything to do with our lives. This is the same for everybody, I know. People were being told they couldn't come into work. Kids couldn't go to school. We couldn't visit friends and family anymore. So we needed to do something different. We really did. It wasn't about, let's say, my role shifted massively. It wasn't about traditional learning and training anymore. This was more about genuine support, supporting people who are now pushed into this world of home working, and then helping people to realize, they weren't on their own. So it's about bringing to life stories that demonstrated our true commitment to flexibility in working. Listening more, reacting quickly when we needed to, and getting live, going live and being in front of people as much as possible. So we became much more visible. It was much more of a conversational tone that we took. And rather than having again, traditional, the clearly scheduled learning events, we had to shift. So we created an environment through our company intranet, through using LMS 365 as our learning zone, and through Teams. And this environment focused purely on our new home working model at that stage. And it was about providing resources, support materials, guides, hints, tips, all aspects of remote working. So I mentioned there the learning zone. Learning zone is our intranet, our SharePoint environment, and we have at the heart of that the LMS 365 learning management tool, and we have Teams as well as our main collaborative tool. And we had to do this all ahead of schedule. So we planned out. It was, you know what? It was going so nicely. We planned out a lovely launch comms plan. It was all scheduled to go May time. We had the extra 6 weeks, and we buffered a lot of time to make it a nice, smooth, effective launch. And then the home working thing happened, the pandemic happened, and we had a meeting on Friday, and the boss said it's got to be live on Monday. So that all disappeared, all that buffer. But yeah, very quickly, because of how easy it was, the environment was set up. We integrated all our learning content and all of these resources, and made that available to everybody globally. And was it perfect? No. Was it the right thing to do? Yes. Did we get feedback and have to evolve it? Yes. But the biggest thing that we wanted to promote was this is about supporting you in the craziness that we have to live in now and work in. And big focus, self-development, take the opportunity to develop, to learn in a way that works for you. Here are the resources, go for it. All the traditional, impact, measurement, boom, went out the window.
Right. So, with that level of increased or decreased time for pushing out such a large project, what were some of the challenges that you experienced, that you guys overcame?
I think one of the biggest challenges was probably in mine and some people around me's mindset. And again, I've used the word traditional. I use that guardedly in terms of learning, development, training. The traditional route of scoping out a need. Let's design an amazing solution. What's the measure? How are we going to engage? How will we get that traction? How are we then going to go and do the whole embedding? What's next? That kind of had to go a little bit, and we had to just make some very quick calls. And to put it bluntly, it did impact our ways of working in the way we created solutions and the way we created content. We had to do it much more quickly. And the mindset shift was, let's not let perfection get in the way of doing something that's really good and useful. So yeah, we had to just bite the bullet a bit and just get some stuff out there. So to put it bluntly, everything went online. We had to find smarter ways to connect with people. We no longer had the ability to get 12 people into a room and do some training. So we had to become much more bespoke and adaptable. Because of the pressure of business overall, plus having to balance and everybody having to balance this new working landscape that we all faced, i.e. all working from home, some alone, some surrounded by other people in the household, we had to be flexible and reactive. So again, rather than scheduling specific day-long or half-long events, we at that time had to go hour by hour, half day by half day, and say, what do we need?
So was there anything in particular that worked well for that connection that needed to happen to support all of this?
I think one thing that massively ramped up was, and I'm sure a lot of people can recognize this, whichever platform you use, we use Teams as our communication collaboration tool. We were on there a lot more. We just had to be a lot more on there, a lot more, and listening to people and saying, come and talk to us, tell us what you want. Because the way people were coping with the situation, they all literally had different needs amongst their teams. So if there was a part of the business that wanted to talk about coaching for an hour, that's what we did. If we were asked to share resources about effective communication in this virtual world, that's what we did. If people wanted help understanding how to collaborate now in this new environment, that's what we did. So we became much more reactive and just catered as much for what people were asking for. And pretty much a lot of it, being really honest, all of that scoping and getting the amazing outcome at the end, it just went, Travis. We just had to react quickly and help people.
Yeah, cool. Well, we talk from time to time, and something that I've heard you discuss a lot about and mention a lot is this concept of trust. Can you tell us a little bit more about your approach to that, and maybe how that's connected to these rapid changes that you guys had to push through?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we always talk about trust, but it does link to enablement and empowerment as well. So if I give you an example, one thing we used to have in the business was our annual appraisal process. So performance measured on an annual basis. We all capture that rating at the end of the year. Make sure you've got your new goals on the system for the start of the year. It's an HR-driven system. We go out and tell you you've got to do it. Then we'll start chasing you in September, October, saying you've got to update your goals. Then we want a rating for you. And then we're going to go through, and it's just like really, really bureaucratic and really admin heavy. And people were telling us that. They really were telling us that. They didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
So we decided to change it completely. So when it comes to performance, we've made a big shift. We used to have the admin heavy annual approach to performance. People didn't want to have to input their goals into a system in January for those goals to change partway through the year. Several times a year, they'd have to update them, or if they didn't, try and remember what they did in March. So we removed the barriers, and we just went down this massive model of trust, and gone was the need to enter goals into an HR system. We introduced a framework of thinking, a way of thinking, and then said, over to you. So we call it the ACT framework, and this is about ambitions, conversations, and taking charge. And the framework's all about having more frequent, less formal conversations with managers, and capturing those conversations in a way that works for you as an individual. So we put a lot of trust in our people and our teams, and we've given them the flexibility to talk about performance in their own preferred way. So as an example, ambitions is about what I'm aiming for right now. What are my short-term goals and objectives? And then turning those into some really clear desired outcomes, working out who I might need to collaborate with and to achieve those goals and objectives. But I capture these in a way that works for me. So this, for me, could be an online tracker, a KPI tracker, a PowerPoint deck, an Excel, maybe just a simple Word document. But that wouldn't necessarily fit for yourself. So it's giving you the flexibility to say, use the tool, capture your ambitions in a way that works for you and your teams, because one size doesn't fit all. The conversations we're promoting are much more regular, much more ad hoc. So it's about a regular check-in on how I'm progressing against those ambitions, recognizing what's going well, but having the ability to change course if I need to, to get rid of obstacles or change my goals if things in the business change. But ultimately, it's about me taking charge and being empowered. Once my goals and objectives are agreed, I own those actions now that come off the back of them. I know how I'm tracking against them. I'm responsible for keeping them moving, and I'm the one that has to be brave enough to stick my hand up and ask for help if I need it. So my manager's role has changed slightly to that. My manager's role now is there to be a supporter and to provide that support, advice, and guidance when I need it. But essentially, we've entrusted our entire performance management program over to our teams, our managers and our leaders in a way we've never done before. And that is a trust thing, and people are finding it a bit of a struggle, which we knew. So we're having a lot more conversations about how to bring this framework to work to life, and that's how we're doing it.
So, with any great change like this, there's going to be struggles. What have you experienced so far? What's been has it been pushback, or is it just admin related struggles? What's that like?
Do you know what? Ironically, we spent a lot of time capturing feedback from people last year as to what was wrong or what they didn't like about the old annual appraisal system. And what came back every single time was admin heavy, bureaucratic, HR system. We don't want to have to keep putting these goals in there. We don't want to have to keep updating the goals. Within 3 or 4 weeks of launching the ACT framework, everyone said, where do we put our goals? Where's the system? And I don't think they wanted the system. I think it was just this natural reaction to change, saying you've taken this huge thing that I used to know away, even though I didn't like it. I knew it. So a lot of the initial wasn't pushback, but a lot of the conversations were, well, wow, what do we do So it's a lot of the time the conversations we had were about reassurance to say, you're all right, the business hasn't stopped, you haven't stopped doing your job, you haven't stopped delivering and performing. All you've stopped is having to do all that admin over there. So a lot of the initial conversations were just reassurance to say, you're all right, you're doing the right thing. And then we got into more detail when the business is really starting to look at how they capture their ambitions. So really good, strong conversations where certain parts of the businesses are using OKRs, so objectives and key results, and helping them to really get some strong definition around their OKRs. Other parts of the business, that doesn't work for us. So how do we capture this in terms of metrics from our social media teams or something like that? So yeah, getting quite bespoke in what each different part of the business needed to measure their success.
Cool. So what does, in terms of measurement, right, and return on investment and these things which I am daily bombarded with, and the need to prove these things, from at least, from a technology vendor perspective, it's something that is top of mind with a lot of people that we talk to. What does it mean for you internally now, moving to this form of trust and individual goal setting and individual formatting of each one's goals?
I kind of knew you'd ask something like this. This is where I'll probably get in trouble with all the CFOs or whatever on the call. If there is anyone, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell the truth. Of course, measurement is always going to be important. And with LMS 365 that we use, we've got that ability to measure everything that we need. So if I decided to get into more detail, I could do. So I'll give you an example. We have, it goes back to trust a little bit as well. So when we say this is important, we always have been and will continue to be in a world where people likely won't be in the office as much as they ever were and previously were. The office space is likely to be used in a different way, so we're not going to have standard, what we call standard inner room training sessions. But the trusting goes on to our people as well. We've got to trust our people's expertise, not just around flexible working, but about their expertise and knowledge. So when it comes to learning, we've previously held the keys to that training. Again, we have to change this. So by using the capabilities that we have now, we call it the learning zone. It's our LMS 365. We've given the keys of our virtual training rooms to experts. So here's an example. We had a need to upskill people in the systems that we use to manage data. Data is hugely important to us in our business, and we are striving to be an ever data-led business. The audience was people who needed to become more expert in using those systems. And we could have spent a lot of time scoping out and designing wonderfully beautiful sessions, blending in lots of follow-up activity. Inevitably, people would probably have found it hard to fit into their working day, would have started to be chased by us to do it, asking for feedback. How good was it? How good were we in L&D creating this? How meaningful was it? What was the impact that it had? Or we could just ask Jack, who's the expert, to do it. So Jack is an expert on those systems, and he knows how to talk to his team in a language that they all understand. So making Jack an administrator of his own course, his own sessions, his own content, gave him the ability to run his own sessions. And we were just there to support and answer any questions around the LMS. So now you talk about measurement and ROI, and this is where probably, I'll come back to more traditional stuff in a minute, but I don't know the impact of those sessions. Other than, I don't have a measure, but I do have a point of view that they wanted to pilot 12 people over a 3-month period. Within 3 months, Jack's now delivered those sessions to 70 people across the business. And those that have attended are writing news articles. Other parts of the business have heard about it and they want to attend Jack's sessions. Jack now wants help in train the trainer so he can go wider. So that trust to me links to the ROI. I don't know the impact of it at all, but I know it's worked. So I'll come back to it. Of course, measurement is always going to be important. And yes, will I start to do more of the multi-level feedback and evaluation of courses? Yes, when it becomes a priority of ours and I start being asked it, and I know I will, I will do more of that. But at the moment, I just want to empower our experts, enable them, get them sharing knowledge. We want to create communities which bring people together to share that knowledge, to ask questions, to challenge and do it in a way that works for them. We'll provide the nudges and some content, plus more internal, external experts. We'll bring them in, and then we'll look at the impact, the true impact, not just numbers.
Fantastic. Well, you've mentioned a few of the tools that have been important to you, but maybe could you just give a little bit more detailed overview of which technologies have helped you with this so far? If there's been any surprises, any gold nuggets that you can pass on to your peers here?
So the core infrastructure that we have is Microsoft 365. Is it now? Was it Office 365?
That's Microsoft 365.
Yeah. It's M365 now. Is it? Okay, so yes, that's our core infrastructure. So we had M365 and all of the apps that you get within there. So all of your standard communication tools, Outlook, Teams, SharePoint is our intranet. So that was all in place. And what we actually did was we never had a learning management system at all. So when I joined the company, and this is not a sob story, I joined the company, we had a 2,500 line Excel spreadsheet. So I thought there must be a better way. There's got to be a better way, and it was an LMS. So that's when we started talking, probably 3 years, two and a half, 3 years ago now. Yeah. And we spoke to other people as well, of course. But that's the key, the fact that it so easily integrates and slots into the M365 environment. That is what actually enabled us to make that decision on Friday and go live on the Monday. So it is all Office 365. We are always going to look at other tools that can make things better, that can make things more effective, but we have some amazing people in the business, and we'll probably leverage some of that expertise to build a lot of things that we want to do internally. But I'd say the biggest thing is probably around Teams and how we're able, all of these little things talk to each other, and we're able to surface learning content in a way that we couldn't before. So as opposed to saying, here is a course, do a course, we can just lift content whenever we want. As part of this conversation, we could lift some content in here. And this could be a project meeting, a team meeting, not a formal learning session. And we're enabling our managers to surface content through Teams, linked straight back to the LMS in a way that we've never been able to do before. So they just see it as part of their conversation, but we have all the beauty to find out and track what's going on in the background. So I do measure some stuff to see what people are using. And that way we can surface more content there. So SharePoint, LMS embedded in there, wonderful. Surfacing things through Teams has probably been the most enlightening thing. And the most frustrating thing about Teams is when they do a new release of a new feature, and they don't quite tell you that it's there, and suddenly your share tray's over there when it was over there. So yeah, lots of little bits like that as well.
Yeah, they do love to update that system, and it's from a personal perspective, I think it's fantastic, all of these updates that come, but I'm also checking the blogs on a regular basis and seeing the recap. And I can just imagine for the average busy instructor or the course admin who is sitting in a live session with all of their learners and not understanding how presentation mode now works or where the share tray is, right? That's got to be a frustration. So it's a two-way street, I suppose.
Another benefit of Teams, though, is something else that we've done in terms of a shift in the way we let's call it learning, content, resources, whatever you want to call it. But the whole situation that we've been through did enable us to rethink. And I as I say, I like to be completely honest. We previously had the approach of getting people into a room, training them, ticking our L&D box, reporting how great we were because we trained 548 people in management and leadership in the last 12 months. How amazing are we? You know what we've done? We'd actually shared a lot of theories, thrown lots of learning at the wall, but hadn't truly thought about how beneficial that had been for our people or what was actually useful for them. So we had to shift that as well. And we've moved to a much more experience-based approach to learning now. So we share opportunities for people to attend far more live events, 1 hour sessions with subject matter experts, internal, external, to learn about a wide range of subjects. We call them our brown bag sessions. And as many people as want, because of Teams having live events, as many people as want can attend these events now. We then follow that up with live Q&A sessions, follow-up articles, additional resources for people to learn more. But it goes back to the trust. We trust our people then to take their own version of learning from those events and apply them to their day-to-day lives. So there's less L&D measurement in there and more enablement just to take advantage of the fact that there's a lot more stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also fantastic to be able to search in this search-based scenario within Teams. I wouldn't say extremely easier. It's getting easier and easier, but the ability to find the subject matter that you need when you need it is, I think, is become more and more powerful every year.
Yeah, absolutely. And that search is really, really key as well. So we've previously, and we're probably going to go through some change, we previously also had an online learning content provider that we've got a relationship with. You can't embed as much as you'd like with certain providers. So you can't do that search. You have to have, no matter how much you brand it up, it's an external platform. Single sign-on is great, so you can get access to it, but it's an external platform. So what we are exploring now is how we get more online content, probably from an external supplier, but fully embedded into our infrastructure. So wherever you search for it, if you search for it in SharePoint or in Teams or just general search through our intranet, you'll find that content somewhere. But you need the content inside your world to be able to do that, and that's probably our next step.
Okay, cool. And then when we're talking about next steps, are there any other long-term strategic goals that you guys have within the L&D and performance group?
Yeah, I think probably lots of people will be talking about behaviors and leadership behaviors. I think one of the big things that we are massively going to focus on, and I'll go back to the ACT framework. My ambitions, they're short-term ambitions. So my Q3 ambitions are to publish some really, really high-quality DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion learning. The second one is around leadership behaviors. So inclusive leadership behaviors is linked directly back to DEI. And then linking back the other way to our overall, what's our kind of cultural value system, and start to talk about leadership behaviors, but in a way that isn't hierarchical. It's about, I could be leading something today, whereas you're leading that tomorrow. So it's not about the org chart, it's not about the hierarchy, it's we're all leaders of our own destiny. So they're my big ones, the future. And the way I'm thinking of doing this is through community. So creating communities within Teams, within SharePoint, and being an enabler to say, let's bring everybody together. Let's not be so siloed. Let's all talk about these things. And we'll just push content in. We'll push nudges in. We'll push experts in there every now and then. But we want to encourage our leadership team to be talking to each other more, asking each other more questions, challenging each other more, calling out great things, calling out poor things. And that's going to be a big shift for us, is to move to this community learning is where I want to go.
Fantastic. And you guys are really distributed, right? I think, was it 20 different offices globally?
Yeah, so we've got 10 main offices where we have rights, and we have the platform live, and we've got multiple sports rights. So yeah, Japan, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Brazil, Spain, Italy. Don't let me forget anywhere. US, we've got another office. But because we're covering sport around the globe, yes, we have people that work in all of those other countries as well, because they need to get to events to produce them and to get them streaming live. So 20 plus countries, I think we've got people in there.
How does that affect those communities? I mean, does that have a negative effect, or is it, surprisingly easy to get all of these people to talk to each other?
I think one of the biggest, one of the main phrases I hear all the time is time zone, and I think there's always a willingness, but what we need to do, I think, is have more consideration of time zone. And I say we as a global thing, not just as a people or an employee experience function. I think we do need to think about ways of working and making sure that we don't just make it 10 o'clock in the morning because that fits people in Japan. Do you know what? That might not fit people in Japan. Why don't we do it at 6 in the morning? Because that really fits people in Japan. And my view is always, This is one person getting up at 6 in the morning versus asking 30 people to stay in work until 7 in the evening. So I think, again, it's about just having this cultural empathy and this awareness of, yes, time zones is a big one, but also there are so many cultural differences as well in the way we communicate, the way people take on learning. So, yeah, challenges, absolutely. But in the main, I would say most people are just, let's be as accommodating and helpful as we possibly can.
But it sure sounds like an empathetic organization. Maybe I'll have to apply to DAZN here in the near future. But should we go back to Sheena and see if there's any questions that jump into? Are you there, Sheena? I know I threw this one on you without much prior warning.
I'll tell you what, should we see, is there another way we can have a look at these questions? Let's find out. I know we've had some coming in, haven't we?
I've got the our chat here. Yes. So
cool. Let's improvise and adapt as we go, Travis. Go for it.
All right. So Dawn is asking, how important is psychological safety as a way of ensuring the trust that allows learning? Psychological safety.
That's massively important. It's something we're doing a lot of work with in terms of overall inclusion and being understanding and empathetic towards people. People need to be able to feel comfortable, not just around learning, that they can just show up as their genuine self anytime they're in work. So working very closely with people right across our people team in terms of how we can get this message across in terms of the behaviours, the way we manage, the way we lead people as well, to really promote the fact that everyone should be allowed to turn up as their authentic self and feel safe, that their voice is as equal, as equitable as anybody else's. So it's a huge thing, I think, yes, and that does then enable the increased levels of trust when it comes to us providing learning, definitely. I see Sheena's back.
I'm back.
Hi, Sheena.
Yes, indeed, that was great. Picking up that first question that came in is absolutely fantastic. I have a question of my own. It's a delivery question. You can take the classroom out the girl, but you can never really take the girl out of the classroom. When you are delivering using Teams, I'd be really interested from both of you with your different perspectives. What hidden function would you say is a real unsung hero of using that platform for delivering learning?
Shall I take this one?
Go for it, and I'll think of my answer while you're talking.
Okay. Do you know what? It might seem like a real small thing, but for me, that polls, the ability to poll, the ability to create and ask live questions within a session. So you can plan and prepare as much as you want, but the ability while people are talking, if you're gauging what's going on in those conversations, to quickly just drop a question in there and say, "What do you think?" And maybe you can help steer the conversation in a way that you didn't expect 40 minutes before. So I think that live polling is really, really useful. And breakout rooms as well. I'll steal one probably. He was going to say breakout rooms, but breakout rooms sometimes just give you a little bit of breathing space, if I'm honest.
Breakout rooms, that's definitely something that people have been asking for forever. And then it finally came out, I think, in December time last year. But it's for me personally, and I don't do a lot of instructor-led training, but I do a lot of presentations. For me, the ability to do presentation mode for PowerPoint so that you can specifically see the facial reactions of the people who you're presenting to has been a game changer for me, because no matter how hard I battle against it, I always end up having 3 or 4 slides I have to do. And just having the ability to read the room a bit has helped me a lot. But of course, there's lots of great features that are coming in there all the time.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for the answer to that question. I was itching to ask it. We've got another couple that have come through that I'm just going to find because my chat's gone mad. There we go. Any hints on how to set up a community so that it can share effectively and openly without being dominated by powerful personalities?
I'll jump in on that one initially, and this isn't about the setup and the preparation from my point of view, and it's about engaging people that can contribute before you launch. So yes, you always have big, powerful voices, and that's absolutely fine. But what I've done is actually create a schedule of contributions from people that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be the loudest voices. So scheduling what your first month, 6 weeks, 3 months worth of content and contributions will be before you launch that community. So yes, we want it to be organic. Yes, we want it to evolve in a way that's natural for that whole community. But you need a little bit of structure and control to make sure that it launches in the right way. And that's how we did it, is to just set up, you say that on that day, we'll contribute that on that day. We'd like you to reply on that day, and just have a bit of control in how that content and the conversation started.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. So I've got one more for you coming in here to have a little chat about. This is interesting. What are the cultural issues around supporting learning across such a distributed organisation?
One of the challenges I find is around, and it is a bit hierarchical actually, it's about the org chart, is when you go to certain cultures, they rely massively on that org chart to be the people that say go and do things. Whereas other parts of the world, they don't. They'll just say, oh, right, you're telling me I can go and do it, I will do it. So the consideration has to be how we could have the same piece of content, let's call it a global piece of content that we want to push to 10 different parts of the world. But we might have to do that in 5 different ways. So we might have to have a totally different engagement plan for our friends in Japan compared to the way we would launch that into the US. You know, some might be hierarchical top-down sponsorship and saying, yes, you can go and do this now. Some might be a, hey, have a go at this, everybody, and everyone dives in. So, yeah, it is about, but the main thing is actually about talking to people, asking them. So before you do anything, talk to them and say, this is what we want to do. This is the plan. This is what we'd like the outcome to be. How do you think this is going to work best for you and your people? So I think we've got much, much better at working with across our people team, working with our people partners, our business partners, our people managers who are in local territories. And one thing that's really important to me is we have a monthly call with every single territory that we have as the employee experience team. And that call is multiple, for multiple reasons. Firstly, how's it going? What's going on in your part of the world? Let's stay connected. Secondly, here are some plans that we've got. How might that work? Can you help us get it to land properly? And thirdly, is there anything you want that we could do better? So that's a monthly thing.
Awesome stuff.
And I'm going to have to, Steve's the expert on this topic, so I'll let him let his answer ride for mine as well.
Fantastic stuff. Well, that's just been amazing. Travis, I'd just like to ask you just very quickly, in a moment or two, what is LMS 365? Let's answer the $1 million question.
Wow, $1 million question. So LMS 365 is a learning platform which is built on top of Microsoft 365, which is previously known as Office 365, and is Teams and all of the Office package and SharePoint and all of these things. So it is an LMS, but because of where it resides and the tools that it connects to, it actually does so much more, because we are not reinventing the wheel, but allowing our customers to integrate with the entire platform. So like Steve was talking about, using it within Microsoft Teams as the backbone for distributing out all of this learning content, or within your own intranet. And we are what you call an independent software vendor, but we work very closely together with Microsoft and their partners to deliver this kind of a solution to customers really of all sizes. So that's what LMS 365 is.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you both so much for a really informative session. I've scribbled loads of notes down, which is always a good sign. What is the best way for people to contact you after the session today to carry on the conversation and make those connections? Where's the best place for them to find you?
I'm hoping Travis has prepared something here. Oh, brilliant.
There we go. We've got the slide here. So in terms, if anyone wants to learn more about LMS 365, they can just visit our webpage, and we've got a QR code there. If you would like to connect with either myself or Steve, please do so on LinkedIn. That's what these QR codes will redirect you to. I'll let Steve talk a little bit about what you could expect from connecting with them. But what you could expect from me is a lot of material directly regarding Microsoft Teams and delivering learning via Microsoft Teams. So if that's a subject which you're interested in, and it doesn't have to do with LMS 365, but just the Teams product in general, that's a bit of a hobby of mine, is to put together content around how that works.
Awesome.
From myself, yeah, L&D, employee experience. Let's talk. You know, I find so much inspiration from people that post on LinkedIn, some of the research that people do, some of the thoughts and just ideas, and some of the debates are really, really good as well. And you know what, I follow quite a lot of people. I learn from them. I disagree with them. I agree with them. So just conversations about people, experience, learning, development. I'm open to any of those conversations.
Fantastic. Well, you heard it here first, everybody. If you want to get involved in those conversations, you know what you need to do. Go ahead and reach out and connect with both Travis and Steve, who are really happy to have that conversation with you going forward. I've learned a huge amount this afternoon that I'm going to take away and have a look at to use in my own business. And I hope that you have the same. Just again, my chance to say thank you to you both for a brilliant session. I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Come and join me again at 2:30 when we'll be talking about content strategy for the age of resilience. That's our next session at 2:30 this afternoon. But once again, my thanks to both Travis and Steve for joining me this afternoon. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Great talking to you, Steve.
See you soon, Travis.